Welcome back. Perhaps let me start with you, Dianne Kohler-Barnard. I listened to all three of you, and you're really all saying the same thing. Why would people think that, as it were, one particular party is going to do any better than another? I mean, if you're all acknowledging the same difficulties.
Well, we may acknowledge them, but we certainly didn't cause them. It was the SAPs led by the ANC government that cancelled and disbanded all of our specialised units within the SAPs, and are now slowly but surely, well, at least have brought one lot back. But we still don't have a narcotics bureau. We don't have the specialised units we should have. Where we run the Metro Police in Cape Town, we have introduced various specialised units, such as the Copperheads, fighting copper theft particularly. One needs specialists on units, and that's what we would reintroduce.
Sorry to interrupt you. I want to just pick up a point that Annalize van Wyk made about the social questions. I mean, in the Western Cape, it's well known we've got unbelievable gang violence of a kind which is just horrendous, and people living under the most appalling conditions. Now, I don't think it'd be fair to sort of say, well, it's the police's fault. The question is, how do we solve the social problem? And that's the point that she's making overall, that these crime statistics go far deeper than just policing.
The police are paid nearly 70 billion rand a year to do exactly this job. Okay. And they have to be preemptive, they have to predict where it will be. If we had a functional crime intelligence, which we don't, they would know what was going on. But because that's been in utter chaos for years now, with Richard and Mluli, and we hear now they've downgraded the qualifications as they look to finally appoint provincial heads of crime intelligence. One only has to have a matric. So you will have highly experienced and qualified people saluting a man who only has a matric, or a woman with a matric.
Well, leave the matric aside, question how good they are, but let me come to Annalize van Wyk. I mean, you've heard my exchange with Dianne Kohler-Barnard, and the point that she's making is that in a whole range of issues we don't have specialisation. We don't have, and it is true, is it not, that in many areas, for example, forensics, the situation is appalling.
It's not appalling.
It's not appalling.
In forensics,
do you really think that people watching this are
No. Just give me an opportunity.
I will, of course I will.
Ask me a question, give me an opportunity to speak to you. You know, the interesting thing is Dianne said that the DA in the Western Cape have specialised units. She says the Copperheads. They also have a gang unit. What difference is that gang unit making? Zero. The problem is that previously, under apartheid, there were gang units. What difference did they make? They made no difference whatsoever. We need to address the social problems that are associated with gang violence as well. In terms of the issue of specialised units, you know as well as I do, are we now going to ignore the problems that were there with the Narcotics Bureau? Are we going to say there were never problems? Are we going to say that there were never an issue of some of them getting involved in the drug trafficking, etc., etc.? The specialised units that have been brought back, like the family violence and child protection units, are doing very, very well. I believe as they get settled and as they get more resources, they will do even better. What we need to see is that when we address issues like gang violence, which is a century-old problem, more than a century-old problem, we need to understand the culture around gang violence. We need to understand what it is that gives the gangs a fix.
Fair enough, but you cannot exonerate, or certainly let me put this to you. People watching this program, the public out there, are going to say, fine, we accept that, but that does not exonerate the police. It doesn't exonerate incompetence of detection. It doesn't exonerate the fact that from time to time, well-publicized cases, I'm not going to go into them, which basically show a forensic quality which is dreadful. It's embarrassment. And if that's the case in high-profile cases, the public are entitled to ask, what's going on in my case, where I'm not a high-profile person?
If the situation was as bad as you are making it to be, how do our jails get as full as they are? Are people coming to our jails and knocking on
given
the
the magnitude of our crime.
No, knocking on our doors and saying, yeah, I am. Do you know what the statistics are around the number of life sentences that have been laid down by our courts? Yeah. Now, if there were bad policing all around, as we are setting out, or we were being told here today, how does that happen? Forensics, yes, there are times when they make mistakes, but I think we also need to acknowledge that there are people within forensics who are doing a terrific job.
Listening to Annalize, I wonder why you've made some of the comments you have. I mean, they have a difficult situation. We accept that. You've also got to accept that socially there's a serious problem out there.
Look, I accept it, but I'm absolutely flabbergasted. You know, Becky Taylor, when he came to Parliament, and he came, I think, in the committee in front of Annalize, and he said, well, I think, okay, he said, we are big on quantity, but we are very small on quality. And that's absolutely the problem. Now, the difficulties that we have in our crime is that we are not coming at it from multiple angles. We are coming at it with one or two ideas. For example, if we take what happened in New York, the broken window syndrome, fixing that up, putting lights where lights are needed, improving sporting facilities.
Whether that helps in the long run is now the subject of very serious criminological research, by the way, which is questioned whether that approach is really the one that at the end of the day gets you the sort of situation you want to.
I think if you start fixing problems up, you know, step by step, and if you tackle this along a whole interdisciplinary manner, you're surely going to be able to succeed better than if just attempting to solve the situation in the old apartheid style of policing, which is where the brutality is coming in and where the Constitution... I'm coming to brutality
now. I want to get there, but I still want to press you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were the minister tomorrow morning, what 2 steps would you take which would the public could say, aha, now we can see something happening?
Yeah, I would place a great deal of reliance on getting the economy of the region working, and then I would use sports.
That supports the point your colleague has made.
Yeah, and then I would use, you know, sports and arts a great deal more than either one of them are proposing or suggesting, because I think those would be very, very useful in getting people who are devoting to crime to move over to something that would be more creative.
What would you, I mean, listening to Annalize, she's put up a stout defense that says, well, we are putting a lot of people in prison, and that these are social questions are overwhelming and they aren't to do with the police. What 2 things would you do?
Well, I think for a start, the prisons are overcrowded because the criminal justice system is dysfunctional. They sit there for year after year after year. But let's just correct the issue about the anti-gang unit. The SAPS is playing politics by not implementing one in the Western Cape. They have put one into the Free State, which has had just over 6,000 drug-related crimes, yet the Western Cape's recorded 82,000 and no anti-drug unit. So I think that puts a most interesting perspective on that.
So what else would you do?
You spoke about the laboratories. Well, you spoke about the laboratories. The health department laboratories have virtually collapsed, and yet 2 major issues, the blood analysis and the, well, dealing with murder victims. I mean, the post-mortems can take up to 5 years, the blood analysis up to 3. That is dysfunctional, and that has a huge impact on detection rates. And of course, now the police laboratories, the backlogs are moving up again to 20,602. That was the figure given to me at the end of the year. So things are not all rosy, and once the DNA legislation kicks in, that will be massive. It will. I'm fearing there's going to be a massive, massive backlog.
All right. I want to perhaps develop some of these, but I have to take a break, and then we'll come back.
News that moves. ENCA.com.